Hi everybody, my name's Misty. I'm here for Digital Ritual, and today I'm going to take you through about a 20-minute hip sequence. This hip sequence is one that's really good to do at home. It really helps with moving your waters and moving those stagnant, deeper parts of yourself that, especially if you're stuck at home perhaps, or you're locked down at the moment, or you just feel like you've been sitting all day, this is a really nice sequence to sort of uplift yourself and get you out of your depths and start to move through your depths in a more organized way. So just to start, come up over onto your hands and your knees. For this class, you can, if you have blocks at home, you can use 2 blocks and a blanket. Otherwise, you can use books, or you could use a couple of blankets or towels stacked on top of one another. You don't need too much, but if your hips are really tight, I encourage you to get some height so that then when you do land in those friction-y causing positions, you're nice and well supported. All right, beautiful. So come over onto your hands and your knees, and we won't be here for too long, but what you want to do is just measure out that you have some right angles. So a right angle with your wrist joint and a right angle with your thigh. So your knees and wrists are stacked. And then when you're ready, you can just start to put a wave in it. So once you put a wave in it, we won't be here for too long. This is really just to incorporate your first floor. So in Katonah yoga, we use the metaphor of the body as being a house. For first floor, your legs, your feet, and your pelvis. Your second floor, which is everything from your pelvis up to the roof of your mouth, and then your third floor, which is your vision and your imagination. So you can start to just move that around, and sometimes I even like to allow myself the freedom to just move organically so that then I can really see what feels sticky and what feels nice and comfortable for me today. So good. And then we're not going to flip the wrist today. What we're going to do is bring the left knee in the center of the mat and just take the right knee over the top. So I'll face this way. So what it will look like is your knees stacked together, one in front of the other. And you want your knees to act like the bolt in a pair of scissors. So they're really glued together, and the body is designed to fit itself. So you want to feel nice and fitting here. And then once you have that, you can flip the wrists. So flipping the wrists allows your lungs to travel forward. So if you have your fingertips facing forward, it's easy for your shoulders to come over your lungs. But once you flip the wrists, you open up the collarbones and the forearms, and your lungs move to the front. And then you can just start to make some little circles around your pelvis. So you can make these circles big and dramatic, or maybe even little. But give yourself the opposite of what you think you need, just for the purpose of this class. And what it's nice to do sometimes is, even if you envision that you have a clock in your pelvis and you're wanting to hit every number on the clock as you go all the way around yourself. So when you're spinning right, you're spinning with time. So spin towards the right, go all the way around in a clockwise direction. So good, and I'll turn back this way. And then what you're going to do is just unflip the wrists. And from here, just tuck your toes and lift up to downward facing dog. And you'll have your back knee fitting into your front knee. So the right foot is in front of the left. And downward facing dog probably feels a little different like this, but allow that bend in both knees to allow yourself to really fit. Roll your outer armpits in and bring your arm bones in line with your ears, and allow the pinnacle of the pose to be your perineum and your 2 sit bones. So good. And then when you're ready, you can take your left foot in front of your right, and then just drop down to your knees, and then we'll move over to the other side. So this time, instead of flipping the wrists, interlace the hands to the webbing, and then bring them down so they're right underneath your face, and plug all 10 fingers down and in so they're nice and glued together. And this time you want to spin the hips towards the left. So this is really like going down into your basement, down into your depths and your deepest, darkest pieces of you. And then just starting to stir things up a little bit. So you can imagine using your perineum to stir your own personal pot, a big pot of soup, or start to move your waters around. Being winter, it's nice to be down in your depths. It gives you lots of insights. So go down, go deep. Give yourself permission to be down in the pieces of you that perhaps sometimes you don't go down to. So go all the way towards the left. When you spin left, you go towards the personal. It's your own personal spin on things. Sometimes it can feel a little against the grain. And make the spins nice and big and dramatic for this last one. So get the head, the neck, and the shoulders involved. Go all the way around. And your hips should feel like they're getting a little workout already. So then unhook the hands, and you can allow your fingertips to face forward again, and then just tuck your toes and lift up to dog. And this time you'll have your left foot in front of your right, bend your knees and stick your butt all the way up. So anytime you cross your arms or your legs, you get to reference the middle. So an X marks the spot with the knees, reference my implicit center. And give yourself 3 breaths here. Bring your arm bones in line with your ears. Look forward, send your lungs towards your thighs. So nice. And then you can just find your regular downward facing dog. Pedal out through your heels. Come forward to a plank. And when you come forward to a plank, this is really just so you can get a measure. And so the way to measure your plank is you can spin your middle fingers in to get the width of your shoulders. You can allow your shoulders to stack above your wrists, and then just drop 1 foot. I've got my nice socks on to keep me warm. 1 foot into the arch of the opposite foot, and that will give you the width of your hips. And then from there, just lift your hips, downward facing dog. Hand, hand, foot, foot. When you're ready and you've found your downward facing dog, step your left foot forward so that the heel makes contact with the earth, and send the right leg up towards the ceiling. And then bend the knee and open up the hip. And then just start to make some circles with your right knee. So it doesn't really matter what direction you go in first, but what you want to do is make sure that you know which way you go when no one tells you which way to go. And then just go the other way. And then bring your right knee down and through for pigeon. So we're right down in the depths real quick. Set yourself up. So this is where you'll need your blankets or a towel or a pillow or a bolster. But what you want to do is make sure that you've really substantiated your pelvis. You want your pelvis to be nice and plugged in, so that if you could imagine your perineum making contact with the earth, it's nice and plugged down and in to the blanket underneath you. So nice. And then what you can do is you have a couple of options here. If you do have yoga blocks at home, you can bring 2 blocks in front of you and come to rest there, and then you can find the back bend from your pubic bone to the crown of your head. Or another one that I like playing with at home is making contact, is bringing my left hand to the sole of my right foot and my right hand to my knee, and that really allows my pelvis to orient well. So my pubic bone is looking at 12, my tailbone is looking at 6, my right hip is looking at 3, and my left hip is looking at 9. And then I can find the back bend from my pubic bone all the way up to my crown. My lungs, like my windows, and they're nice and available. So the lungs are traveling to the front of the body. And then once you've counted yourself 3 breaths, you can start to fold over. If you have blocks or if you have books, it's nice to make a T shape. And then that T shape, 1 block is going to support your sternum and the other one for your forehead, and then you can just slowly make your way down. So this is a really good sequence, especially if you don't have much time, but you really need to uplift yourself, go down into your depths and really clean things up. In a pigeon, it's nice sometimes to keep the volume. If you're feeling really tired, you can always bring your forearms down to the mat. But what you want to do is, even if you're feeling like you're a little bit tired and you wouldn't want to keep your arms out like this in a big V, that you're maintaining activity in the pose. So keep your imagination and your breath in what you're doing. One way to do that is you can create a little cross reference in your pelvis. So find your pubic bone, find it in front of you, and then draw 2 lines out to your 2 sit bones behind you. And then find your coccyx bone behind you, and then draw a line to your 2 hip bones out in front of you. So then you have this tripod underpinning everything you're doing beneath you. Find your right shoulder to your left hip and your left shoulder to your right hip, so you have an X marks the spot referencing the middle. And then you also move in two directions. You can find your left nipple to your right shoulder blade, and your right nipple to your left shoulder blade, and your left eye to the back of the head on the right, your right eye to the back of the head on the left. So you have all of these points of cross-referencing. Nice work. And then when you're ready, you can start to make your way up. Bring the blocks out from beside you. And then from here, we're just going to swing the left leg around. And we're going to set up for double pigeon. We won't be here for too long. I'm going to show you this from the front, so hopefully you'll be able to see this on the camera. But when you're setting up for double pigeon, you want to sit on a blanket or get your butt up a bit higher than your knees. Change the angle of your pelvis so that your pelvis tilts down that way. And then what you want to do is have your right shin bone parallel with the front of your mat. And then you can just allow your left leg to either rest over the top, or what you can do is bring your left foot onto the top of your right knee. Now, whichever option you go for, if you go for this option, just make sure that you can keep the flex foot the whole time, and the same with this option, just make sure you can keep the foot flex the whole time too if you're there. But what you want to do is when you look in the vacant space, you should have a nice equilateral triangle. And then you can bring blocks out by your side, give yourself a minute to find your volume. Soften your shoulders away from your ears, soften your face, soften that space in between your eyebrows. You'll probably notice that when things get a bit icky in the hips, that tension really starts to ripple up. So make a conscious effort to melt down those places on the top half of your body that might be feeling the tension. Then once you have that, you can make a frame with your arms, and then just go for the arm that you wouldn't have gone for. So make a frame up, hold onto your elbows with the palms of your hands, and then just make some little circles around your pelvis. And so when you think about your body as being a house, this is really first floor, ground of being. This is really about your stability. This is how you plug into the big socket of the earth. It's also moving your own waters. So anytime you start to stir yourself up, you get to move your own waters. And so as you start to rotate around your hips, you really want this to be coming from the first floor. You really don't want to get your second floor or your head involved. Even if the movements are only very small, you really just want to make sure that you're using your first floor, your pelvis. And then go the other way. So go the way that you weren't going before. And then just start to notice which way you really like to go. And it'll give you a little piece of information about yourself. So good. And then find center. You can release your hands back down. And then from here, we're going to transition straight into Gamakasana. So Gamakasana is cow face pose. The knees are going to stack on top of one another. If your hips are really tight here, which many of us, they will be, what you can do is take a block underneath your butt and give yourself a little more height, and that will allow your knees to stack on top of one another. Otherwise, feel free to stay here. I always like to make contact with the soles of my feet and then just rock my pelvis from side to side. So good. And already you'll probably find it's quite sensational to be down in your hips. So let's give yourself something to do. Bring your arms above your head, make yourself into a frame again, and then just make those same little circles around your hips. You can go all the way towards the right and really call in your first floor, be in your depths. And then go all the way towards the left. So rotate around towards the left. And then just find center again. And then from here, you should have your left leg stacked on top. So what you want to do is Garuda the arms with the right arm on top. So Garuda wrap the arms, and you can punch up or have your hand open. The choice is yours. And then draw your elbows up and in towards the center of the room, and just count yourself 5 long, deep breaths here. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, and really allowing your breath to become like a soundtrack, a soft piece of music that allows you to soothe yourself or calm yourself down, especially when things get a little fired up in your hips. And keep lifting your elbows up, taking your chin onto your bicep. And then when you're ready, you can unwrap the arms, cactus them. Feels so nice after that. And we're going to come out the same way we got in. So a quick sequence is a good sequence. We're going to take it nice and quick today, just so that we don't stay in our depths for too long, but we really go down there and do some housekeeping. So come out through a pigeon on the right, and then just lift straight back up to downward facing dog. Nice. And once you're here, just give yourself a minute. If you need to take a three-legged dog, you can take a three-legged dog. You might want to bend the knee and open up the hip again. And then before you do anything, just remeasure yourself. And that's so that then after things might have fallen apart a little bit in that hip sequence, you get to put it all back together by virtue of finding the formality of this practice. So then when you're ready, just step your right foot forward so that the heel makes contact with the earth, and then send your left leg up towards the ceiling. And bend the knee, open up the hip, and then just start to make those same circles. Doesn't matter which way you're going, but notice which way you're going. And then you can start to go the other way, so go in the opposite direction. And then when you're ready, bring your left knee down and through for pigeon. So set yourself up in the exact same way as you did on the other side. You don't want your pelvis really floating off in midair. You want your pelvis to be all plugged in and supported. So props are great because they give you something formal to work with. And blocks can give you a boundary, and so can a blanket, which is what you're really working for here. And do the same thing as you did on the other side for your back bend. So you can bring those blocks out in front of you and find your back bend here. Or you can bring that left hand onto your left knee and your right hand onto your left foot, the sole of your left foot. And then from your pubic bone to your navel to your sternum, and then the sternum to the crown of your head, find a back bend. So back bends are really about the front body. So if you think about all of your history and your past and your personal reflections, all of the things that have happened to you, if they were living in their back body, a back bend really cracks that open and allows the radiance to move out from the center of your chest. So count yourself 3 breaths here, and then you can start to fold over. So good. So fold all the way over. Bring your sternum onto a block and your forehead onto a block. And you have those 2 options with the arms. You can keep your volume, stay up on your fingertips, or what you can do is come onto your forearms. The choice is yours. But keep your breath and your imagination in what you're doing. And then the physical poses become a lot more dimensional. You can find those cross references again. So find your right hip to your left shoulder, and then your left shoulder to your right shoulder to your left hip, And then find your right nipple to your left shoulder blade, left nipple to right shoulder blade, right eye to back of the head on the left, left eye to back of the head on the right. So you have all of these X marks the spot as you make your way up. And once you've had your 3 long breaths here, really fill these poses up with your own breath, so that then it's not really about me telling you it's over, it's you really living and existing in a pose and being able to take any insights from those poses that you might gain. So then you're just going to swing yourself all the way around, and I'll face the front for this one. And unfold the blanket so that it's not so high, and set yourself up for double pigeon. So this is really about flushing the hips. Hips can store a lot of stuff sometimes, so remove any flesh from your sit bones. And also they have a big job, they keep you standing upright. So pick whichever option with the legs you went for on the other side, making sure that you set this up with geometry. So the purpose of using geometry is so that you really work with something that is formal, and then you begin to conform to archetypes. So then in the vacant space, you should have that nice equilateral triangle, and that's a really nice way to proof out that you have this all locked and loaded. Bring your hands onto blocks, soften your shoulders away from your ears, soften your cheeks down the sides of your face. So nice. And then you can start to bring your arms above your head, make that same frame. And then just make those same circles that you did on the other side around your pelvis. And you'll notice right away that one side always tends to feel more available than the other. And life happens differently to the body. It doesn't always happen the same on each side. And it's really not about being judgmental or seeing your body as a project or a problem to fix. It's really about having this sacred time spent with yourself and starting to understand how life affects the body in different ways. So then go the other way. And ultimately, this is the place that we're all living from, is our own personal abodes, our houses, our bodies. So you really want it to feel well lived in. So keep spinning towards the left, move over into left field a little, and then find center. Release the arms, and then let's set up for Gamakasana on the other side. So your right knee stacks on top of the left. And like I said at the beginning of this class, the body is designed to fit. You want both sit bones really plugged down into the earth, and then you can bring your hands onto the soles of your feet, or you can hold onto your ankles, whatever feels nice for you. Sometimes we do a big twist sequence in this, but I wanted to keep it really simple today so it's something you can do at home. And then from here, you can bring your hands onto those blocks, or what you can do is Garuda the arms like you did on the other side. This time you'll have the left arm on top, punch up towards the ceiling. So nice. And then what you want to do is count yourself 5 breaths here, knowing that it's hard work to be down in your depths, but it's rewarding work to organize the pieces of you that can't be seen. Starting to understand how life happens differently to all parts of the body, and that the deepest parts of you can hold on to some of the deepest stuff. If you think about a basement as being a place where maybe you might store things, you might put precious things there, you might put things there that you haven't wanted to look at for a while, maybe you want to take a look again. So start to make your own associations about what that could mean in your own house. And then when you're ready, you can unhook those hands, so good. Bring them back down. And then from there, I always love to finish this particular sequence. Bring your legs out in front of you, and then just windscreen wipe your legs from side to side. So after all of that work in the hips, it's really nice to set yourself up in a back bend that allows your pelvis to just become completely free. So what I like to do is set myself up for a supported bridge. So to do that, come and lie down on your back, and then you can lift your pelvis up, and 1 block or 2 blocks you get to choose is going to land underneath your sacrum. So good. And then you want your feet to stay nice and plugged in. And you want to be at a set of right angles. If the blocks are too far up, you'll feel quite uncomfortable here. If they're too far down, you won't feel very supported. So take the time to set this up well. And then you have lots of options with your arms. You can allow your arms to face up beside you. You can make your arms into a frame and bring them above your head. You can allow your arms to reach out behind you. You can bring them to your lower belly or your heart. So have a go of one or all of these, and then see what works for you. And this is something that it's more of a restorative pose, so you want to spend some time here. 10 breaths is probably a good amount after that work that we've done in the hips. You can start to stretch out your inhale, inhaling for the count of 4, 2, 3, 4, and then hold at the top, and then exhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold yourself empty at the bottom. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold. And so you can stick with this 4-part breath, and you might even like to start to imagine on your in-breath spring rising. And then when you hold yourself full at the top, imagine summer ripening. And then on your exhale, imagine autumn, the leaves descending off the trees, things beginning to decay. Hold yourself empty for the insight from the whole season in winter. The in-breath, spring rises, flowers grow up, and then you hold yourself full, that pregnant pause during summer. Exhale, things begin to decay, leaves fall from the trees. And then you hold yourself empty for the depths and the insights and the darkness of winter. Inhale for spring. Hold yourself full for summer. Exhale for autumn, and then hold yourself empty for winter. And then just start to notice if there's a particular point in that cycle of breath that perhaps you feel most comfortable. If there's a season that you feel like becomes very effortless to be in. And then notice where the breath creates a little bit of friction, if there's a particular pattern with the seasons. And then just count yourself 2 more cycles of this seasonal breath. And then whenever you're ready, you can take your time. You can lift up off the blocks, bring them out beside you, and then roll back down vertebrae by vertebrae. And it's always nice to give yourself a nice hug, give yourself a big squeeze and a gentle rock and roll from side to side. And then when you're ready, you can make your way up, make yourself a comfortable seat. Sometimes I like to stay down, be down, lie down for a little while, or you can always come up and sit for meditation, but that's the end of our practice. I hope your hips feel a little more free after that and you feel a little more uplifted. Namaste, thank you.